Ipswich Town return to their King Power Stadium, looking to turn Jamie Vardy's farewell party into a pity party. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome to the Prematch show, Leicester away edition. We've gone pre-record again this week, but we'll be back to normal for the final game of the season against West Ham, and we will be live. But joining me as always, Seb Brown. And do we want to get the Jamie Vardy stuff out of the way at the start, Seb? Because it does feel like a bit of a panto, a bit of a sideshow. And we found out so we're recording this on Thursday, confirmation from Leicester that he won't play away at Bournemouth. So if we shut out, I do hope we ruin the story. You know, he needs one more goal, doesn't he, to get 200? But if he doesn't get it, he'd play at Bournemouth, wouldn't you?
Really weird, isn't it? Yeah, I kind of figured I saw the article and I kind of thought, obviously it's his last game at the King Power, so that's why they're making a big deal out of it. And there's stuff going on pre-match and stuff going on post-match, etc. And yeah, he's an absolute legend of that club. It's exactly his 500th appearance, and he's exactly on 199 goals. And yeah, it seems bizarre. Like, the first thing I thought of was, if he doesn't score, he's effectively giving up the chance to get that 200 goal by not playing against Bournemouth. So it's a really strange decision. It's going to become a bit of a circus. Let's be honest, he's a master of the S-Hauser. We've seen that over the years, so I'm sure he'll enjoy himself on his last outing at the King Power, and hopefully we can keep him quiet. But if I was a betting man, I'd imagine if he doesn't score on Sunday, the following Sunday, he might well be starting or coming off the bench at least to try and break that record, because it would be really stupid for him not to try it, in my view.
So he's been mentioned in the pre-intro and the actual intro. I think we're going to try and reduce the amount of Vardy that we talk about. There's enough media coverage. There's two teams trying to be the least crap relegation team. And that's what we're playing for. That's the real quiz. So more about that later on. First up, I had a quick chat with the guys that called me Ted, who obviously enriched the pre-match situation this season with their gig posters for every home game, and they gave me some insights on their season to date and an exhibition that's planned over the next few weeks. So here's me from a few days ago. Welcome to the Prematch show. The chaps from Call Me Ted, Steve and Rich, have done sterling work all season. You finally, if you haven't already, got faces to names. Guys, on behalf of the fan base, thank you for adding just a brilliant extra dimension to the match day weekend for home matches. All of us, I think, worried a little bit about the soul of the Premier League. It's a little bit corporate. It's a bit plastic. And you guys have done brilliant work to try and add that little bit of spice and interest to it. So thank you on behalf of everyone. Rich, we'll start with you. How did the kind of gig poster idea for ITFC matches kind of come about?
So me and Steve were brothers. We've grown up together as lifelong Town fans. Love going to the games. But another passion of ours is art. We like all things art. We regularly sort of talk about it when we meet up. And then we used to put on these club nights and gig nights in Ipswich called Uprock, where we DJ, have bands come and play. And every time we did that, we'd make a nice poster. And Steve would design these posters. And it's been a while since we've done one. But over the summer, we were thinking, we'd love to do something like that again. We'd love to do something related to football, and stumbled upon this idea of creating artworks for each game as Ipswich returned to the Premier League. So that was sort of, maybe we should do a one-off, and Steve did do the first one for the Liverpool game, but it quickly sort of developed, wouldn't this be an amazing opportunity to work with artists we like, and sort of set ourselves the challenge of working with 19 different artists and do a poster for each game. And it just sort of evolved from there very organically.
Brilliant. And Steve, the kind of things that it's kind of spun off and grown into, it definitely feels, obviously family is a big part of that, and we'll talk about your Liverpool poster in a second, but community as well as establishing the links with the club. Is that did you expect that, or is that kind of one of these kind of organic things that's just grown and evolved from it?
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest. I think we definitely had the idea that if we got some of these posters printed up, we could kind of be geeky and go into some local shops and see if they put them in the window and kind of create a bit visual kind of buzz around the games and kind of communicate the games in a different way. But I've got to say, the thing that surprised us most has just been how willing people have been to get on board, and in particular, our mutual friends at the Greyhound. I mean, they massive top of the hat to Dan and Ness there. They took the poster on day one, the first poster, and it was them putting it up that led to the club seeing it. That kind of thing spiraled from there. So they are absolutely instrumental to the story. But then so many other places we've worked with have jumped on board, and they're all like independent shops, cafes, bars, and it's like genuinely a real joy, like mutual joy, when we take the posters round each time, because quite often they're getting them before we've released them on Instagram. So they'll come around, we'll take them around. They're genuinely excited to see what this one's going to be. They'll kind of give their view on it. So that side of things has been, it's been brilliant. We can't thank them enough.
Rich, there's an opportunity for fans to revisit the season just been through an exhibition, isn't there, coming up?
Yeah, that's right. So it's that odd thing, like when we launched the first poster and you get to 150 followers on Instagram or something, we sort of think, okay, everyone knows about it now. But one of the things that's happened throughout the season is whenever we work with a new artist, it's introduced us to a whole new bunch of people. So people are finding out about us now that we're on poster 19 for the first time, which sort of blows our little minds a little bit. So yeah, we're doing this exhibition. It opens on Saturday. We're going to be in what used to be the Superdry store in the Butter Market. We're going to be there for a week. We've got massive versions of all the posters printed out on nice vinyl. They look really, really cool. We're going to have some of the stories behind the works. So a full-on 19 poster exhibition of the work to date, stories behind it. And then one of the cool things we're doing during the week is we're going to get school kids from local schools to come in, talk about it, and then they're going to have their go at making their own artworks. So
amazing.
Yeah, we're really excited about all that as well. It will be there Saturday and Sunday during the day, and the following Saturday as well. Cool. But yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah. And I was going to say, folk can still buy. There's a few I'm missing in my collection, so I'm planning on rocking up and buying a few extras. But just point us to direction. You've got a website, haven't you, and socials, Rich?
Yeah, callmeted.co.uk is the website, and we're Call Me Ted ITFC on the socials.
Well done, guys. On top of the day job as well. I know what that's like. So all power.
Can we say, Rich, as well? We love your show. And we love all the shows that the Blue Monday crew do. So it's an honour to be on here. We've had all these firsts that we've just pinched ourselves at. And the first time you mentioned us, I was like, they've just mentioned us on Blue Monday. So we never take it for granted. We're really happy to be here. And one more thing, if that's okay to mention, two of the questions we keep getting asked are, can you do smaller versions of your posters? And can you do larger versions of your posters? We can give you the exclusive that we will have both at the exhibition. So we're going to have little postcards, which look really, really cool. You can buy a bunch to have all of them in postcard size, which is much easier to frame. None of us have got houses that are big enough to have a dedicated wing for A3 prints. Or otherwise, if there's one that you really, really like, you might be able to get a super big version of it as well.
There you go, podcast exclusive. And the love is very much mutual for you guys. Thank you, as I said, for everything you've done to kind of just boost the interest around the match day. And it's been a little bit challenging on the actual match day. So to have this as part of the pre-match build up, you guys have been really generous with giving us a few prints and stuff like that. I've got the Leicester one for the pre-match show ahead. Obviously, that's the home one. So it's just been a really great dimension to it. Really excited to see where you go next, and all the best for the exhibition as well. Good stuff. Thank you to the guys at Call Me Ted, and head to their website. We'll also put an extended version of that interview out as well. In addition to this bonus, we'll call it pre-match extra time or something fancy like that. So do give the guys your support, and brilliant to hear from them on an exclusive as well there too. Bit of news, Seb. Not much going on, is there? As things kind of ramp down, but nominations for the Premier League Young Player of the Year award. I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen, and do you want to talk to that? Because I don't think 23 or 24 is young.
No, so well, not our age. No, the criteria is that
we're old enough to be their dads. No,
if you're 23 at the start of the season, then you qualify for this award. I think looking at that very briefly, Huijsen might be younger, but surely Liam Delap is the youngest of those. If you're listening on or podcast audio, there are 8 nominees for the young player of the season: Liam Delap, Anthony Elanga, Ryan Gravenberch, Dean Huijsen, who's about to join Real Madrid, Cole Palmer, João Pedro, Morgan Rogers, and William Saliba must be. Yeah, it does.
I think he's got to be older.
I think he's over 23 now. I think he might have been 23 at the start of the season to qualify, but he must be 24 by now. So yeah, it's strange that it's you're allowed to. I mean, a 23-year-old in the Premier League now can have hundreds of appearances. So it seems a bit strange. Will Delap get the award? If I look at that list, if I'm being honest, then potentially, I guess Ryan Gravenberch will get an awful lot of praise because Liverpool won the league and because he was repurposed into a position that kind of was a problem for them and took to it effortlessly. So he might well be one of the standout performers. Morgan Rogers has had an excellent season. Aston Villa. Cole Palmer was brilliant for the first half of the season, but has fallen away in the second half. So here's hoping Liam Delap. Here's hoping
he's got a
Liam
chance.
Delap does get the award, and hopefully he'll add a few more £1 million onto his price tag.
Well, good one. Let's talk Leicester, shall we? It's rare that we get to talk about a team who's had an abject season as we have. My thought is, surely they should have done better than us. And the fact that, I guess, we're level, aren't we? And they could overtake us if they win on Sunday. But how crap must you be? It definitely applies to them more than us, doesn't it?
Very much so, and that's kind of been the narrative, hasn't it, in all the media most of the season, that Leicester and Southampton have had complete disasters for the entire campaign, and we get a little bit of a break because of the scenario, coming up, double promotions, coming up from League One with still having 4 or 5 League One starters in the starting 11 some weekends, and we must forget, Leicester only spent 1 season outside of the Premier League, as did Southampton. They both bounced back at the first attempt after 10 years of being in the Premier League, 10 years of all that money, 20
title winners,
20 windows of transfers, FA Cup winners, Europa League campaigns, obviously title winners in 2016. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the squad, we'll discuss the recruitment. Did they get their recruitment right in the summer in terms of the balance of experience versus youth? Probably not. Have they made a mistake with the managerial appointment? I would say very much so. We'll discuss Mr. Van Nistelrooy, professional cheat. We don't forget Mr. Van Nistelrooy. Professional cheat, Mr. Van Nistelrooy, obviously, who has gone in there and affected no change whatsoever. And I guess it's a very unhappy home life, isn't it? Let's be honest. There are protests and chants against not so much the owner, but more the director of football kind of set up. They've got big question marks over PSR, if the EFL are going to be waiting for them with open arms, having got away with it last September by ruling out they were not a Premier League side. That to me suggests the EFL might be waiting for them. An aging squad that's going to need a lot of kind of fine-tuning in the summer. A club legend on his way out. We've already discussed Jamie Vardy. So if I was in one of 3 camps going into the summer, I would definitely want to be in ours rather than Southampton's. And Leicester's probably, for me, probably the worst of the lot, to be honest, because at least Southampton have acted. They fired their manager. They're ready to go with a clean sweep come the start of a pre-season. Leicester in this weird limbo where no one really knows what's going to happen, and that uncertainty can't go on for much longer if they have a design to bounce back at the first attempt again.
Yeah, and saleable assets are both Ipswich and Southampton, you'd say, whereas there's players that are worth 15, 20 million maybe at Leicester, but no one's queuing around the block or talking about players at Leicester like they are about Delap and Dibbling and Walker-Peters and Amari and Leaf and all that kind of stuff. And weirdly, when we talk about the personnel a bit later on, there are actually some really solid pros, Connor Cody, Harry Winks, and you just don't really hear too much about them. Obviously, I think Cody scored, didn't he, against Forest, but in theory there's a decent enough squad there. But it is fascinating to see what's gone on there, and the managerial situation, as you say, is probably the major factor in it. But state of place there, but it looked pretty good for us to win the relegation battle to stay
the least crap, did you call it?
Yeah, least crap team in the bottom 3, but they've closed that gap in the last few weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, got an unexpected point away at Forest last weekend. Forest obviously have hit the brakes after an amazing sort of most of the campaign. They're stuttering across the line at the wrong time. So Leicester got an unexpected 2-2 draw, which means we are tied. We are both on 22 points. We're in 18th. They're in 19th. We have a marginal better goal difference. They've played 36 games. They've won 5. They have won 1 more game than us so far this season. Drawn 7 and lost 24. Scored 31 goals, conceded 78. They've scored 4 fewer than us, and they've conceded 1 more. So that's why we are above them in the table. No shock. Only Southampton have conceded conceded more goals with 82. The last 5 overall, they do have a win in their last 5. They beat Southampton. Everybody beat Southampton, obviously. 2 draws, Forest, like I just mentioned, and Brighton, and 2 defeats, Wolves and Liverpool. Their home form is the best of the 3 sides that are going down. They've taken 12 points from their home form. Obviously, we've taken 7. Southampton have only taken 6. The last 5 at home, there was the Southampton win I've just mentioned. So they have won 1 at home in the last 5 games. 4 defeats other than that against Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United and Brentford. And of course, this record that was mentioned everywhere, they did not score a home goal for 9 successive games between December the 8th and May the 5th, which is crazy when you think about it. But they've since changed that record. And you just mentioned there about the experience, and I thought I'd have a quick look through the squad, because obviously one of the major accusations, you can look at us and you can say, Axel Tuanzebe, Ben Godfrey, Calvin Phillips aside, there's very, very little Premier League experience in our squad. You look at Leicester's, and they've got an awful lot. Jamie Vardy, we keep mentioning him, 341 appearances. Wilfred Ndidi, 214 appearances. Connor Cody, 196. Bobby Decordova-Reid, 150. And Andre Ayew, 102. So they've got 5 players there who have all played over 100 times in the Premier League. And yeah, it comes back to this kind of narrative that they have got things really, really wrong this season, because the squad should certainly, I would suggest, be good enough to maybe not stay up, but certainly not to go down with the points margin they are going down with.
Yeah, and I wonder, all 3 clubs really lack that physical presence. I'm trying to think through. We'll talk more about the Leicester team, but all of those players don't strike me as particularly physical in stature. I think the keeper, there's obviously a big back line, isn't there? Fass is it, and others, but maybe they've suffered from exactly the same problem that we have, is that midfield engine, isn't it? I mentioned the likes of Winks. They've got Oliver Skipp, who's not really kicked on and done much. Got some nice attacking flair players out wide, but maybe it's that physicality. But they should know about that.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. They should know about that, having only spent 1 year out of it. We were out of it for 22 years, and we came back, and I don't think any of us expected the Premier League to be like this in terms of athleticism and power. But for having spent 1 year outside of it, you would think you know exactly what you're going back into, and therefore you should, recruit appropriately. But for whatever reason, they just haven't, and they've been caught out by a lot of the same things. I mean, they made a much better fist of it last time they got relegated. Okay, they had much better players. Yuri Tillemans was there, etc. Much better players who kind of left on free transfers. But you would think, learn your lesson and kind of prepare to prepare for what you're about to go back into. And I guess that ties in again to these protests about the director of football and the overall kind of strategic direction of the club, because they don't seem to be learning from their lessons.
No, we'll talk about the manager's situation a bit more in a second, shall we? Last time out, Forest away, a good point on paper, a local derby, of course, but perhaps a good time to play Forest, Seb?
I think so, yeah. Forest, like I said, are really kind of struggling to get across the line, aren't they? It was a 2-2 draw last weekend. They went 1-0 up through Connor Cody, 2-1 down. Kind of thought Forest were going to get a win and get themselves over the line, but Facundo Bonanotte, who came on, who's on loan from Brighton. He kind of came on and made a big difference. Only 44% possession, 1.05 xG to Forest's 1.3, 10 shots, 4 big chances created. But I thought in the last sort of 5-6 minutes, there's quite a lot of added time, I thought they looked the more likely side to get a goal rather than Forest getting the winner.
100%, and it was a neat goal, wasn't it, from Buonanotte, that one? But as you say, I think Nuno followed the usual game plan when Forest have a narrow lead and you make your defensive subs. But Forest are kind of running out of puff a little bit, aren't they? And the injury to Wanyu was a bit of a distraction, and Leicester capitalised and probably, as you say, deserving of a point in the end, which is annoying for us, but gives them a little bit of momentum relative term for our seasons going into this one. Ruud van Nistelrooy in charge, Seb. Should we deal with it? We've definitely raised his name in previous podcasts when we haven't been talking about Leicester, and that does feel like a bit of a bad choice there in respect of going from Cooper, who very experienced, with a track record of keeping Forest in the division, a style of play perhaps not compatible with Maresca before him and what the Leicester fans kind of demand. But I think in the circumstances, probably what they needed, whether they liked it or not, the hero they wanted rather than the hero they needed, maybe. And since Van Nistelrooy's come in, they've just fallen off, haven't they? And yeah, it kind of feels like maybe, would you want to have that debate now? Does Cooper keep him up?
Yeah.
That was your question, wasn't it?
Well, you have to look at you can only judge him by the job he did whilst he was in post. And the facts are that on the day they sacked him, they were, was it 2 points above the drop zone in 16th place. So, okay, the football is a big change going from an Enzo Maresca incredibly high possession-based kind of slower tempo side to a much more direct kind of style of football under Steve Cooper. But you're sacking a manager that for 18 months kept Forest up for 1 year. Okay, he was replaced by Nuno Espirito Santo halfway through his second year, but he's got Premier League experience, which Van Nistelrooy didn't have in the dugout side of things. Van Nistelrooy had that spell. He came in at Man United at the start of last season. Everyone kind of guessed he was lined up to become the caretaker manager when they eventually would have sacked Erik ten Hag, which sure enough they did. He then takes charge for 4 games. He beat Leicester, ironically, twice, once in the League Cup. There's a Europa League game in there. They won 3 out of his 4 games and they drew with Chelsea. And then for some reason, the Leicester board and owners decided he was the man to take them forward, despite being an elite level player who was always competing at the other end of the table, competing for league titles and Champions League. And, we all know his goal scoring record is absolutely phenomenal at all the clubs he played for and for the Netherlands. So I just don't know what possessed them to kind of take a manager on who has no experience whatsoever of the relegation zone. And, it's quite ironic for a player, given his goal scoring record, to not score for 5 months in home games is
you'd just be saying crazy. Shoot from anywhere, guys, wouldn't you, after a few weeks of that? But it's 9 games.
He clearly can't influence any real change. The performances have got worse. They're going down with a whimper. They didn't score any goals. So, a really strange appointment. But we've said it in the past, like you said on here, we've discussed other teams week on, and we've mentioned Van Nistelrooy in passing, and nobody seems to be able to see the logic of keeping him. And now they've got a huge decision to make, because he's kind of said, we need to plan for next season. We need some certainty going into the summer window. Obviously, they've got some PSR issues. Can they afford to fire 2 managers in the space of 1 financial year? I'm not so sure. So that's going to
be on a pretty lucrative salary at Leicester, having to attract a Man United coach, wouldn't he?
I would presume so, yeah. So they need to make a decision sooner rather than later. Obviously, the football club's financial years all end on the 30th of June. But at that point, you're nearly, 2 weeks away from pre-season beginning? Maybe pre-season will begin around that time. So they need to act decisively. If they're going to stick with him, they need to back him. If they're not, they need to move on from this. And I don't think any of us are that surprised it hasn't worked out at all, given the record he has. And here's one more strange one for you. So as part of the research, I look at all the various local kind of news outlets and stuff. And the 2 links that have been made this week to replace him, if they do decide to move him on, one is Russell Martin, the other one is Sean Dyche. So you've got Enzo Maresca, Steve Cooper, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Russell Martin, and Sean Dyche. I'm not sure you could pick kind of 5 managers or 4 managers, whatever it is, 5 managers with more contrasting playing styles. So it again shows this kind of lack of joint up thinking at the top of their structure, I would suggest.
Sounds like Norwich's recruitment strategy for their replacement manager, But that's one for another season. And to quote my learned former colleague on the Prematch show, owners relegate clubs, and Van Nistelrooy obviously perhaps not well equipped for this particular job, but someone put him in the position in the first place, didn't they? And no wonder chance of sack the board are ringing around the King Power, and hope they continue. Obviously, don't want misery for their fan base, but it means probably we're doing something right on Sunday if that's the case. The head-to-head record, Seb, is pretty marginal, but just in our favour.
Yeah, only just 27 wins for us, 20 draws between the 2, and 26 wins for Leicester. As always, Blue Monday Rewind is back this week. Encourage you to tune in for the latest meetings between the 2 sides. Our last meeting in the Premier League was at Filbert Street. Obviously, this is the first time we are playing them at the King Power in the Premier League. That was a 1-1 draw in September 2001. Marcus Stewart opened the scoring for Town.
Great
Robbie
goal.
Savage should have been sent off 3 or 4 times that day, but wasn't. He got Matteo Serini sent off. Muzzy Izzet missed the resulting penalty, and Dean Sturridge equalised very, very late on following a quick free kick. The last meeting at the King Power, January 2024, Jeremy Sarmiento doing Jeremy Sarmiento things by scoring goals in added time. That felt like a big result that night. 1-1 draw, obviously. That felt like a big result. We had that weird spell where there was only 2 league games, wasn't there?
Post-Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was it Sunderland and Leicester were the only 2 league games in January because of the various cup games. And yeah, I thought we were well worth a point then. I thought we played well.
We came back into it. Yeah, second half, definitely. Agreed. Hung in there, didn't we?
And there've actually been quite a lot of draws between the 2 of us at the King Power or away at Filbert Street over the years. The last win Boxing Day 2002, a 2-1 victory on
header.
Sky. Thomas Gardso with the kind of back header, if I remember rightly. We haven't won. That was our last victory there. We haven't won in 10 visits since, but 5 of those have been drawn. There's quite a few draws in the kind of noughties and the early 2010s and stuff. So not the best record, not the worst record. And for the penultimate time this season, let's have ourselves a lineup quiz. You can't do the Premier League era. It's too easy. You'll get it too easy. So it's going to be quite a straightforward one, I would imagine, for you. I want the starting 11 from the 2-1 victory on Boxing Day 2002. 3-5-2 formation. Go.
So I've already got Gardso, goal scorer. Yep. I think Darren Ambrose was in on the score sheet that day as well, wasn't he?
But didn't start.
Did not start. Okay, fair enough. So was Andy Marshall in goal at that point?
He was, yeah.
No, he wasn't for long. So blimey, I'm trying to think back here. Was there a Bent up front, or at least one
of them? Yeah.
One Darren at that point, I guess, was Marcus.
Other one.
No, Marcus. Oh. And Marcus went on to play for Leicester, didn't he? He might have actually signed for them after us, perhaps.
Yeah, he did. It was the summer after this. Yeah.
Holland Magilton. I'm just going to chuck in some obvious names
Holland
in there.
Magilton, yep.
Wilness in there.
Wilness is the right wing back.
McGreal.
Nope.
No McGreal.
No. One of our centre backs is a full back playing out of position. I think he filled in there a few times in the. He went to Leicester as well, actually. I think left us the following summer after not winning.
Macon.
That's it. Yeah.
Great.
So you've got Macon and Gardso, 2 of the back 3, left-sided. Icelandic marauder.
Oh, Herman. Okay. Herman's not gone at that point. Oh, he goes the season after, doesn't he? Charlton ripping us off.
Left wing back.
I said Clapham, but no.
Hey, do you say Clapham?
I just now, yeah.
Clapham, yeah. So you need the other striker alongside Marcus Bent and the other central midfielder alongside Matt Holland. And
Naylor, is it?
No, it's not.
Armstrong?
No.
Oh, hello.
One of Dave's favourite players.
Pablo
Caniago.
Oh,
yep. And the another one of Dave's excellent impressions we've heard over the years was the other central midfielder.
Tommy Miller.
Drives his Audi TT.
Tommy Miller. Some good clues there. Yeah, I forgot more about that team. I haven't thought about that team in a long old while, but I remember
when you look back, it's crazy that we didn't get promoted with that squad.
I remember watching
Pablo, Marcus Bent, Darren Ambrose. Yeah.
We watched the Walsall game at the start of the season, the first game of the season at your house, didn't we? And we thought, we're going to stroll this.
We beat Leicester 6-1 a week later. Do you remember at Portman Road?
Yeah, need to be careful of that hubris at the start of next season, folks. But yeah, I said mention Blue Monday Rewind. Really enjoyable this week. They've you'll be shouting at your podcast app of choice or YouTube for a while when they talk about Daniel Sturridge for about 5 minutes and then eventually correct themselves. But some really interesting insights on the refereeing situation. I won't spoil that. We've talked about Serini, but there's some interesting angles to that story.
And to give an insight into my musical knowledge and musical taste, this is the first Rewind show where I got the number one instantly, which you'd have to listen to find out what it was, but that kind of shows the kind of music I listened to back then.
I did a list of 5 sliding doors moments for the BBC Sport website this week, Seb, on our season, and one of them was not beating Leicester in November. This is up there with, in terms of missed opportunities, not least dropping points to a relegation rival, but VAR intervening in the worst way possible. Lots of bad memories of that reverse fixture, wasn't there, early in the season?
Very much so. This is the worst one, isn't it? The worst VAR we've had all season, surely, because this is the absolute stone waller from position of strength. It was a 1-1 draw back in November. Leif Davis opened the scoring with a volley. Great volley, wasn't it? Yeah, opened the scoring. Was it Wes Burns put the ball across? I can't remember. A great goal. And yeah, the big moment, the Connor Chaplin penalty appeal where it was a coming together, as the refs described.
No mutual holding out on there.
He's completely body checked him. It's a blatant penalty for whatever reason. It isn't given. And of course, seconds later, Calvin Phillips gets a second yellow card. VAR can't intervene on that. So we were down to 10 men just as Calvin Phillips was starting to kind of put a run together and show some decent form. And then obviously Jordan Ayew on 94 minutes equalises. It was it Morsey and Wes Burns trying to run the ball up the line and
kick him out of play.
The player was Leicester, maybe it was Ndidi, just bounced off them both, didn't he? And just put the ball in, and Jordan Ayew scored. Incredibly frustrating, and it felt like a real kick in the teeth, didn't it? Because we played well, we deserved to win, still winless at that point. Obviously, this is before Spurs away. Deserved to win, better team, robbed by a officiating decision. And yeah, I guess that's in your sliding doors piece on the BBC article. I do recommend people go and read it. For me, it's the worst of the season in terms of the VAR calls, because it was so blatant. But
and even the Calvin Phillips second yellow isn't really a yellow card either. So much of that to hate. And yeah, the one moment you want Morsey to put someone in the stand, they wriggle free. And we have had our own Dean Daniel Sturridge moment, by the way. We have talked about Andre and Jordan Ayew today. So it's Jordan Ayew, isn't it?
Jordan, sorry, yes, Jordan Ayew. Yeah, did I call him Andre? Did I? Yeah, sorry.
I did, but it's fine. It's so good. And a lot of people maybe talk about that's the kind of signing that we need to make, isn't it? And that's a name that I'd got on my shopping list in the summer. And yeah, he hasn't done a great deal since then. I think won the game at Southampton, like a 94th minute winner there for them too at Southampton. But yeah, that experience, as you say, good numbers there in terms of his days at Swansea and Crystal Palace, was it? Or am I getting the brothers mixed up? Let's move on. January business, not a huge amount to write home about, and probably the departure. They might come to regret that in the summer, mightn't they?
Which departure? Tom Cannon. Well, he was at Stoke for the first half of the season, wasn't he? So I guess going back into the Championship with Jamie Vardy leaving, Patterson Daka doing absolutely nothing, Jordan Ayew the wrong side of kind of 30-32, then Tom Cannon might well have been a decent option to go into next season with. They signed him at the start of last season from Everton for some decent money, but they loaned him out to Stoke, recalled him and flogged him for 11 million quid to Sheffield United. So they might look back and regret that. They did make a signing, Wayo Koulibaly, 2.75 million quid, joined from Parma. And I remember some stuff at the time. Wasn't Van Nistelrooy debating walking because he hadn't been backed in the window? I remember some comments to the press, etc., that he was, unhappy with the lack of backing and it wasn't what he'd been promised when he took over a month or so previously. So I guess the unhappiness kind of started there. But as we've already mentioned, there are PSR issues potentially to come with the EFL. So I guess they have to be careful with what they do.
Maybe so. Should we talk about how the personnel is used by Van Nistelrooy?
Yeah, it's a 4-2-3-1 if you want to bring up the tactical pad. 4-2-3-1. They kind of briefly changed to a 3 at the back after Steve Cooper departed, before Van Nistelrooy came in. But since then, he's pretty much reverted to religiously playing a 4-2-3-1. It's 2 deep kind of central midfielders. I'll use the usual graphic and move it on. But Skip and Ndidi started last week against Forest. They provide a very deep defensive screen. And both the wide players behind the striker do kind of tuck in a little bit. So if I move it forward to the average player positions, again, we've seen one of these sides that likes to clutter the centre of the pitch. Jamie Vardy is the most advanced player, but his average player position is just on the other side of the centre circle. El Khanous, who we'll discuss, is a threat down the left. He comes in field, as does James McAteer down the right-hand side. The fullbacks, James Justin and Luke Thomas, do still provide a little bit of width. And I thought it was interesting, like I said, Ndidi and Skip, the 2 central midfielders, basically pair up with the 2 centre-halves behind them in Connor Cody and Wout Faz to kind of provide an extra layer of defensive screening. If I then move it forward to where they touch the ball the most, again, it's not exactly a high line. We've seen in recent weeks the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, etc., where you've got the centre halves in your half for most of the game. Understandably, being a relegation side, that's not what Leicester do. As I've already mentioned, the 2 defensive midfielders will sit in front of the centre backs and protect them. The fullbacks aren't that adventurous. James Justin and Luke Thomas do kind of average most touches in their own half. And El Khanous, in this instance, was the furthest man forward down the left-hand channel. Vardy, given his age, it's understandable. The old Jamie Vardy that we all remember from, 5 years ago would play the entire game on the shoulder of the last man and look to sprint in behind using his pace. Being 38 years old, he can't do that anymore. So he's kind of adapted his game to kind of sit a little bit deeper, as the graphic shows there. One thing I did notice doing the research, they seem to be vulnerable down their right-hand side, so our left. 19% of shots conceded down that flank is the 4th highest in the league. So that could be an area of opportunity for us to exploit.
There you go. And the second image there, for those who are listening, I mean, the majority of players were within almost the width of the half, the centre circle, if you imagine that in your mind's eye. So didn't venture too far out to the wide positions. And then I think it's the 2 wingers that do the bulk of that. But some good fullback options, Evan. They will talk about personnel in a second. But yeah, really interesting that low line, Seb. Something that was, someone pinged us an email the other day, and a question for you, whether we'll do some on-air content management, whether we do this as part of West Ham or whether we come back and do a separate pre-match, post-match, post-season show, is where Ipswich rank. People quite like to see our stats and our positions. So maybe we'll pick a couple of games to analyse those on and maybe do that as part of our look back on the season. If you've got any other ideas of things you want us to do, do reach out. People have been sending us emails and leaving us comments, so please feel free to do the same. But I quite like that. We talk.
Keep the FPL feature going.
No. I think people quite like to see where we rank or how we compare. So we'll try and
do a really nerdy one. We'll do a really nerdy podcast if they want it, with loads of stats about how we rank versus the rest of the division. No problem.
Key players, then key personnel. We've talked about the main man and his headline making day. Hopefully it won't be. Other names, Seb, the wingers, isn't it?
Yeah, Buonanotte I mentioned already. He's kind of had a stop-start season. 5 goals, 2 assists in only 14 starts. He can play as the 10 or down the right-hand side. I thought Leicester noticeably improved when he came on last weekend against Forest, so I fully expect him to come back into the starting lineup. Bilal El Al-Khanous down the left-hand side. 2 goals and 3 assists. 38 chances created this season, 8 of which have been classed as big chances, so he does create options for those forward players. Wilfred Ndidi and Oliver Skipp, we've already discussed, will be the defensive midfield duo. They will sit very deep, although Ndidi does have 4 assists. Both love a tackle on 8 bookings apiece so far this season. We must mention Jeremy Monga, the 15-year-old who has to have he can't wear the Gamblers sponsorship on the shirt. You have to have a special completely blank shirt. Unlucky not to score against Forest last weekend, I thought. He's made 5 sub appearances at the age of 15 years old. He's one you could put in your young player of the League One, 15-year-olds. He might well come off the bench. And they've got an issue in goal. Mads Hermansen, the keeper, injured, out for the rest of the season. So Jakub Stolacek has come into the side. He has made 8 starts this season, but has only kept 1 clean sheet. Leicester themselves have only kept 2 clean sheets all season. And normally I sat here and tell you numbers that are going to terrify you and you think, oh God, we've got no chance. But if we had a chance to win, it's this weekend, because their 9 shots per game is the fewest in the league, as is only 3 being on target. 54 goals conceded from open play is the highest in the league as well. Do the line, Richard.
Well, you're telling me there's a chance, Seb. You're telling me there's a chance. Another player, Casey McAteer, all right winger, attacking midfielder. I'm not sure has done a great deal. Made a few appearances, hasn't he?
Yeah, they've got some injured down the flank. So they've got Fatawu and Mavididi, the 2 kind of big players from last season, are both out, as is Ricardo Pereira. So they've got real issues down that right-hand flank. So he's kind of doing a job there. I've mentioned Mads Hermansen is out for the season. He'll probably go in the summer. I think he's quite a decent keeper. Bobby Decordova-Reid is out as well. And then Van Nistelrooy has obviously fallen out with Harry Winks and Yannick Vestergaard. So Vestergaard hasn't featured since February. I didn't know that, huh? Yeah, wow. Not featured since February. The local press are reporting a mutual consent FC is the most likely way to go in the summer. And Harry Winks had a kid about 3 or 4 months ago, was it now maybe? And there's issues around not wanting to relocate to near the training ground. So he hasn't featured since mid-March now. And it doesn't look like he'll be getting back in the squad whilst Van Nistelrooy is still in charge.
Oh, Rui Van Nistelrooy from the school of Roy Keane man management there. Not a happy home life, it seems, and a few injuries. So... telling me there's a chance. I've said it twice now. We'll be back after this.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you to Mikey. Thank you to Atwells, of course, been our show partner across the whole of the podcast this season, along with One Stop Badges. Do click the links in the description for both of those, and a 10% promo awaits you at One Stop Badges if you want to order some keepsakes for your brand, podcast, company, charity of choice. Seb will be at Leicester. He'll do his best to remember badges, but we'll sort you out at Leicester, West Ham on the final day if you miss out. And in terms of Leicester after the fact, it's a Sunday game, so I think Craig is driving 70 miles an hour and no more, and so won't be back in time. And Seb's got further to go, so Mikey will be joining Ben and Dave now. Joe has jetted off on his summer holidays. So join the guys live, 8 p.m. on Sunday night. We mentioned Blue Monday Rewind. That's still available. Go down, look back before looking forward. I think it's Craig's intro, isn't it? And as always, Telegram available for you 24/7, 365 if you want to indulge in some next season chat. Basically, kits, transfers appear to be the primary points of conversation. And as always, a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice if you're listening. A thumbs up and a subscription on YouTube, very much appreciated. Also, if you head to our socials, we have an ITFC Women print giveaway with our mate Matthew J. Wood. So plenty going on. Do get involved in Telegram and everything else. Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk is our website. Everything you need is there. I'm looking here, Seb, and the first words you've written are Leif Davis is available again. Straight back in, ? That's what you've asked. Let me ask it to you.
I think that would be harsh on Jacob Greaves. I thought Greaves played really well at left back against Brentford. Now, so you don't have to drop him. You could shift him inside, but that means you've got to drop Cameron Burgess. So it'll be interesting what he does. I've just described how Leicester are vulnerable down their right-hand side. So do you want Leif Davis straight back in to do what he does, play high against lesser opposition compared to, what we've been playing in recent weeks, and hopefully do some damage, quite possibly. Morsey's partner in central midfield, Jack Taylor. He started against Everton, started against Brentford, but I think I'll be looking at Jens Kajus probably coming back in there if we assume Calvin Phillips is out. Connor Chaplin went off. McKenna came out after the game and said he was sick during the week. He went off, and therefore could we see Amari Hutchinson shift into the 10 with Ben Johnson coming back into the right-hand side because it's a away game. That does to be what he kind of tends to do. Sami Szmodic has been called up to the Republic of Ireland squad for the June friendlies. There was talk in the pre-match presser last week. We're recording this on a Thursday night. The pre-match presser isn't out for this week, but there was talk last week that he might be around for the last couple of games of the season. So could he be a bench option? And up front, do we go with the young player of the year nominee, Liam Delap, or do we bring on George Hurst? I thought against Brentford, Delap wasn't great, and I thought as a side, we became a lot better when George Hurst came on. Not saying the two things are linked directly, but our kind of best attacking in that kind of game came in the last 20 minutes or so when George Hurst was on the pitch. So I'd have no real issue with that. If I was a betting man, I think Leif Davis probably does come back in, which means Greaves either drops out or shifts inside, where Burgess is. You put my graphic on the screen now, and I've realised I've left Greaves in there.
Greaves in there, yeah.
So he doesn't know what he's talking about, everybody. Morsey and Kajus, I think, will be the likely central midfield partnership. I have assumed that Connor Chaplin will be out, so I've put, or on the bench, sorry. So I've put Hutchinson in the 10, Ben Johnson right wing, and Ciso carrying on left-hand side. And he probably will start Delap, but if it was George Hurst, I'd have no issue with that whatsoever.
George Hurst against his old club, or one of his old clubs. Yeah, I agree with that lineup. I think Davis does come back in, and I wonder in hindsight now whether Greaves at left back in the more challenging games and Davis in, I mean, not that there are many games where we fancied ourselves as one of the favourites, but a game where you could afford to attack, whether that horses for courses approach might have been utilised there. I wonder whether we regret that one, but I think Davis comes back in purely because of the opposition. But
so would you shift Greaves inside, or would you bench him?
I'd keep the rest of the back four the same, to be honest. And I agree with you that I think Johnson comes in on the right wing and Hutchinson goes into the 10, and I think Kajus comes in alongside Morsey. So, I would not be surprised to see Hurst either. So, interesting to see what McKenna does on Sunday. Give us your thoughts in the chats or in Telegram if you got any particularly strong opinions there. And I'm stalling as much as I can, but I can't leave it any longer. Let's talk about FPL. If anyone deserved a marginal 1-point victory last week, I would think it would be me, just to make the end of the season interesting. But no, the FPL gods have conspired to deny me yet again by a point. I had Bruno Guimaraes on the bench with 7 points. There's been a few of those situations, at least 3 or 4 that I can recall, where the subs bench has let me down or I've picked the wrong players. But Seb wins the week. It's 22-8. And I can't remember whether I updated the cumulative score. It doesn't look like I have, so I'll double check the maths there. Not that as if it makes any difference whatsoever. So congrats on another win. You don't need it, you don't want it, but you've got it. So I hope you feel proud of yourself. What's the story for you there? Oh, we need to say thank you to Brett Vale, don't we? Football season's coming to a close, so let's get out there and play some golf. And Brett Vale, very happy to welcome you on a group basis. £40 per person on weekdays, £50 at the weekends. Baker on a coffee awaits you. Lots of other stuff available too. Give them a shout or head to the website and their socials. All the links in the description. Beautiful golf course set in the heart of Constable Country. The course you love to play, said Brett Vale. Thank you very much for their support. What's your strategy for defeating me this week? Is it just turn up and go through the motions?
Yeah, just the last minute, decide what you're going to do. Don't make any transfers and you'll probably still end up winning. I have made a couple of changes. I've bought Raya off the bench for Nick Pope. I'm hedging my bets because Arsenal play Newcastle and I have Newcastle attackers, Arsenal defenders. So I've kind of gone half and half. I've kept Dan Burn, so I've kept Saliba on the bench. I've put Raya back in goal and I've got Isak up front as my vice captain. Apart from that, unchanged, as always, my ITFC representation is Julio Enciso and Liam Delap. And yeah, 335 points you've got to claw back in the next 2 game weeks. So if you do, it will be epic. I have had this. Have I told you in the past? I've had this before. I was top of one of these leagues for, it must be 10 years ago now, for literally the entire season. And in the last week of the season, Spurs had a game that was rearranged. So Harry Kane played 3 times in the last week of the season. My mate triple captained him and he scored back-to-back hat-tricks and might have got 4 in one game. And on the last day of the season, I lost the league title. So it has happened to me before. I'd be surprised if it happened, but it has happened before, to give you a little bit of hope.
It's not happened, but thanks for patronising me. I've played a bench boost though, so if someone off my bench who would have got me points last week gets a triple hat trick, you'd never know. I've made a meaningless signing. I replaced Disasi from Villa with Matty Cash from Villa.
Why?
Because he's not playing Disasi and Cash has come in and got 6 and 7 points in his last 2 game weeks. So hopefully my bench does me a favour. Haaland did naff all as we predicted, but at least Vista didn't do anything for Brentford, so I was no worse off. So Bournemouth, is it Bournemouth at home? My eyesight's not so great. Bournemouth
are away at Man City.
So come on, Haaland, sort yourself out, mate, and get me a triple hat trick.
That was brilliant last weekend when I kind of, no signal whatsoever in Portman Road, got outside, phone starts buzzing back into life. I thought I better check the FPL because Haaland's probably racked up a cricket score. And yeah, Southampton 0, Man City 0. Brilliant. The curse of Richard Woodward, folks.
It's real. We'll be back next week to put this feature to bed permanently. But yeah, one more bit and then we'll say goodbye. So Seb, you'll be at the King Power on Sunday. I will be following from afar. How's your confidence levels going into this one?
Don't shout at me, everybody. I know I'm always the optimistic one, but for some reason, I've got heart versus head. My heart says 2-1 Ipswich victory. We're going to win our 5th game of the season against a side that is worse than us, kind of just about, and secure ourselves that 18th place finish for pride and an extra £3 million. It's worth £3 million per spot. Vardy will score, so we'll win 2-1. But I'll be honest, my head says a 1-1 draw. 2 sides that don't score many goals, an awful lot of draws between the two. I kind of mentioned that earlier in the head-to-head records. So if it was a 1-1 draw, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. And I guess that kind of keeps us. I don't know where Leicester. Oh, they're at Bournemouth, aren't they? So in theory, they should lose on the last day of the season, and maybe we can look to beat West Ham. But yeah, 1-1, folks. Sorry.
Yeah, I do think the Jamie Vardy circus is unhelpful, and he's the kind of player that will thrive off of that. So hopefully he gets the goal, and as you say, we beat them and it doesn't matter. And I do feel a little bit better about it, having heard your talk through of it, said both from a tactical and injuries personnel perspective. But yeah, the fact their home form is marginally better than ours isn't bode well, does it? So if you're feeling more positive than we are, we got a criticism of our overly positive prediction last week. Wasn't overly positive, if I remember rightly, but we weren't a million miles away from a draw. But we got some critique of that. But if you want to share your own prediction rather than just come after ours, then feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. We very much appreciate that. But as always, the conversation continues 24/7 on Telegram. Matchday chat will open up on Friday night. And then we'll talk through all the action on the day. So do head over there. But otherwise, Flagship show back Sunday, 8 p.m. Ben, Dave, and Mikey. We talked about Blue Monday Rewind. Go and support Call Me Ted. Head down to their exhibition in Ipswich. It's open a couple of weekends, I think. More details at their website. And yeah, thanks, Seb. As always, only one more of these in anger. We'll do it live. Next week ahead of West Ham. So looking forward to that. And I'll let you sign off, mate. You can have it as your victory prize for almost winning the FPL feature.
We've tried everything, haven't we? We've alternated sign-offs. We've done no sign-off whatsoever. Nothing's working, is it? It's the last away day of the season. I know the season's not been too much fun, but the weather will be nice. Hopefully we can go there, put on a decent performance. Leicester, followed by West Ham, is a chance to pick up some points and get ourselves a little bit of momentum, hopefully going into the summer. As I've said, I'd much rather be going down in our position with our fan base than either Leicester or Southampton. We have many, many reasons to be positive, regardless of what happens at the weekend with the Jamie Vardy show. Hopefully we can spoil his last day. Hopefully we can get our 5th win of the season, our 4th away from home, and we will end the podcast as we always do, because somebody asked about this last week. Somebody
pink
did
shirt,
say,
don't forget the pink shirt.
Of course, the pink shirt. Are we unbeaten? I know, Palace away, but we've got a very good record in the pink shirt. Shame the game's not in London, but yeah, we've got a very good record in the pink shirt, so that goes in our favour. I referenced science a few weeks ago, and you can't argue with science, can you? We had somebody ask us last week and say, we're not doing the Come On You Blues sign-off anymore. We explained we're trying different things because we're ridiculously superstition, but we will bring it back for this one, and probably for West Ham for the last time next season. So for the penultimate time, for the last away game of the season, let's make sure we're loud in the stands. I'll have some badges. Come and find me. And of course, come on, you Blues.